June 2004. Still working at Frame Art Galleries, still living in North Ridgeville, Ohio, still reading a bunch of books, and that's what we're here to talk about. So these are the books I read in June 2004, starting with CSI Miami Heatwave by Max Allan Collins, based on the TV show CSI Miami. I watched it for a while, but I'm a Max Allan Collins fan, love reading his stuff. Regular viewers have heard all this before. In this book, Horatio Kane, I think is the name of the head guy, played by David Caruso. Um, but there's a crime boss named Kurt Wallace who is murdered, and of course that leaves a power vacuum in the crime in Miami. So all these different factions, all these different people trying to fill that void, and Horatio and I think that's his name, um, his people are trying to solve this crime. Who killed Kurt Wallace? Using all sorts of fancy technology because it's CSI. It's fine. It's a well written, interesting mystery by Max Allan Collins, and if you're a fan of the show, then you would like the book. CSI Miami Heatwave by Max Allan Collins. Followed that up with Elixir by Gary Braver, and this uh, stars a guy named Chris Bacon, who is a scientist. He's gone down to the rainforest. Sorry, Itchy. Gone down to the rainforest looking for any plants that might cure cancer. But what he finds, what he's given by a shaman, is a plant that can stop the aging process and even kind of reverse it a little bit. Kind of a fountain of youth sort of thing. So he brings back to the United States, and all sorts of hell breaks loose. Of course, governments want it, companies want it. There's all sorts of twists and turns and thrills and chills and espionage going on. So if you like a scientific thriller, a Michael Crichton kind of thing, Elixir by Gary Braver. After that, we have Ashes by Kenzo Kitakata. And this is about a guy named Tanaka-san, who is a 40-ish year old member of the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia. And it's essentially the story of his midlife crisis. He's either going through a midlife crisis or perhaps about to achieve his wildest dreams, or maybe that's part of his midlife crisis. First part of the story is in third person, and then the second part is in first person, Tanaka-san telling us his perspective of everything that's going on. I did not write down the translator, so that's on me, because it's originally in Japanese. But interesting stuff. An interesting look at the Japanese mafia, sort of the Japanese version of The Godfather. It's Ashes by Kenzo Kitakata. I feel like people are going to think I just like did a bump of cocaine or something. I don't know why. I just have this tickle. All right, after that, I read Live Bait by P.J. Tracy. Thank you to Thomas for this book. And in this is the second book in the Monkey Wrench series. P.J. Tracy is a mother-daughter writing team, and there's a couple of Minneapolis detectives that we met in the first book. Right now, they're kind of bored because there's just no murder in the Twin Cities. But then they find an elderly man found dead in his plant nursery, and it's going to lead into a bigger mystery. And our detectives, Leo Magazi and Gino Ralseth, are going to have to call Grace McBride and her Monkey Wrench crew to solve this. I really, really liked this. There is a specific reason. It tickles a specific itch but I don't want to tell you what it is because that would give things away. But um, and Live Bait, there is a good reason for that title, but a really good mystery thriller in the Monkey Wrench series, Live Bait by P.J. Tracy. After that, we have Tales of the Otori, Book 3, Brilliance of the Moon by Leon Hearn. And this is the continuing story of the three countries. It's this sort of medieval, fictional medieval type Japan. And our main characters are Takea and Kaede. No idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They are lovers. Takea is part of the Assassin's Guild kind of thing, and Kaede is trying to bring the three countries together, sort of rule. But now there's a force from outside. There's outside forces putting pressure on our main characters, and as I said, it's sort of a medieval Japanese tale with, I think there's some mysticism in there, and it's just I found it very interesting. I think there's 4 books total in the series. Can't remember if I read the 4th one, and there may actually be more, but I think there's 4. But if you're interested in fictional ancient Japan, or even real ancient Japan, but delve into the fictional, pretty good book. Tales of the Otori, Book 3, Brilliance of the Moon by Leon Hearn. After that, a book that I should have, but I don't, excuse me, at the moment, Subterranean by James Rollins. This is the first book published under his name. Looking this up, James Rollins is his pen name. His name is James something very, I think, Polish, that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. It's worse than trying to pronounce Straczynski or J. Michael Straczynski or Dwayne Swarzynski. Swarzynski. But anyway, I found out that I thought this was his first book, but he actually has a fantasy book published under another name. That's his actual first novel. But anyway, that's all neither here nor there. Subterranean is about an archaeological expedition going through these labyrinths in the South Pole, I believe, and they're mapping these labyrinths, but they're also looking for any remnants of a group that had already gone to do this, and they're going to discover crazy things hiding in the earth. Again, this is sort of a Michael Crichton-ish type thing. Huge fan of James Rollins. Just thrilling adventures with lots of hidden societies and hidden creatures and great characters. Thrills and chills. Subterranean by James Rollins. And then we have Monstrosity by Edward Lee. I think this is the second Edward Lee book that I ever read. And our main character is Claire Prentice. She got a dishonorable discharge from, I believe, the Air Force, and she has just gotten a job as security chief at a clinic. And but things aren't what they seem. It's an Edward Lee novel, so you've got lots of sex, lots of crazy rednecks. You've got monstrosities out in the woods or the swamps or whatever you would call them. Down in, I believe this is in Florida. But it's after reading City Infernal, this was an interesting change and showed me sort of the diversity of Edward Lee. City Infernal is all about the city that is hell, and this was my introduction to his rednecks, his crazy sex, and this isn't even. I mean, this is a mass market paperback, so it's not even the most extreme stuff. We'll get to that, but Monstrosity by Edward Lee. It's not a bad introduction if you haven't read Edward Lee and you don't want to go deep into the extreme stuff. Maybe check this out. All right, and then I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. How's that for just a twist? You get whiplash going from Edward Lee to Isaac Asimov. I, Robot, the classic science fiction short story collection that teaches us the laws of robotics and, excuse me, each story, if I remember correctly, is kind of a logic puzzle because they, as I said, introduces us to the laws of robotics. And like the first story, I may have this a little mixed up, but like the first story focuses on the first law of robotics, and there seems to be a robot that's breaking that law, and so our characters have to figure out how it could possibly be breaking that law. So it's sort of a logic puzzle. And then another story focuses on the second law of robotics. How is this robot seemingly breaking that law? And then the third law of robotics. And it's it is short stories, a bunch of short stories. I don't recall if there's any recurring characters, but it's a great introduction to Asimov, his writing style, his robots and his laws of robotics. Just a absolutely fantastic book. I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. If you haven't read it, I think you should. But hey, who am I to tell you what to do? All right, then we're getting a little crazy. The next book is Real Ultimate Power, the Official Ninja Book by Robert Hamburger. It's a non-fiction book. This is, I believe, a wild piece of satire. It's the kind of... It reads like it was written by a 13-year-old. There's a... I don't know if it's the back of the book or there's an introduction where Robert Hamburger is basically telling you you're an idiot, and if you think ninjas are just sneaking around doing stuff, you're stupid. It's all about being crazy and chopping heads off. So it feels like a 13-year-old's idea of what being cool and a ninja is, and it'll teach you how to fight pirates and stuff. It's just wild. It's absolutely hilarious. Real Ultimate Power, the Official Ninja Book by Robert Hamburger. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just it's funny. It's funny stuff if you're looking for a good laugh. There you go. After that, we have Dead Roses for a Blue Lady by Nancy A. Collins. And this is a short story collection of 7 Sonia Blue stories. Sonia Blue is Nancy A. Collins' half human, half vampire anti-hero figure. She's got the other, which is like her vampire self in her, but she's always trying to suppress it. She's hunting other vampires. I don't know at this point, and these stories probably cover a wide swath of time, but she's always on the lookout for the person that turned her, the monster that turned her. As I said, there's 7 short stories, 3 of them, I believe, original to this collection, and the Sonia Blue books I always enjoy. I like Nancy Collins stuff. If you're looking for some interesting vampire protagonist stories with a vampire hunting vampires kind of thing, Dead Roses for a Blue Lady, Nancy A. Collins. Don't know how available it is. I'm sure you can find a copy somewhere. The penultimate book that I read in June of 2004 is Remote Control by Andy McNabb. Now, excuse me, Andy McNabb is apparently a former member of the SAS, Special Air Services, I believe is what it's called, which is the elite fighting force of England or Great Britain. Not sure which. And this is the first in the Nick Stone series, and Nick Stone is ex-SAS. He left SAS and became, so there was like a botched mission, and so he left SAS, but then he was sort of recruited by British intelligence as I had to write this down, deniable operator, which I believe means he's working for the government, but if anything goes tits up, as the kids say today, they'll just deny. We don't know who that guy is. So he's following some terrorists. This family ends up, not his family, this family, some family, ends up murdered. The only survivor is a 7-year-old girl. So Nick Stone is on the run with the 7-year-old girl who can identify the killers, but there's people after them. And just a really intense thriller with, a lot of realism, because it's an ex-SAS guy writing an ex-SAS character. According to the description on Amazon, the book had to be vetted by the British Defense Department, whatever it's called, to make sure he wasn't giving anything away. I can't verify that. I wasn't there. But, really interesting thriller with an interesting character. Remote Control by Andy McNabb. And then the final book that I read in June of 2004 was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Watcher's Guide, Volume 3 by Paul Roditis, however you say that name. And this is the final Watcher's Guide. Should be, because it covers seasons 5, 6, and 7, the last 3 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's an episode guide, so it gives you the plot synopsis, highlights, quotes, guest stars, all that stuff. Typical episode guide type of stuff. But since it is the final one, there's a retrospective over the whole season, or the whole series. All sorts of interesting trivia and things, and of course full of photographs. If you're a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I enjoy these types of things, episode guides, to shows that I like. So I very much enjoyed this book. And that's it. That is what I read in June of 2004. My question for this video: if you could take an elixir that would allow you to live forever and stay young, essentially it's like a miracle drug. Excuse me, because it's gonna put you in the prime of your life, and you're gonna stay there. Would you take it? Would you want to be immortal? Of course, I don't remember the book Elixir clearly enough. I assume you could be killed, like in an accident or in a murder. It's just if you're just living your natural life, it's not going to end. I assume if someone chops your head off or shoots you in the chest, you would die. I don't think it's like Wolverine's healing factor. So, given that, and basically you could, if you lived for a couple of 100 years and decided you were done with it, then I assume you could kill yourself. Would you do it? Would you want to live for a long time if you're perfectly healthy for that entire time? For me, if it was just normal, I'm perfectly healthy, but I'm just a normal person, Man, it really would depend. Life isn't that good. I mean, life's great, but it's, life's a struggle. The world is going insane. Um, I would kind of, if you have the out that you can end your own life at any time, and I'm not supporting suicide, um, but, I would probably do it and see what it was like at the very least. And I say normal because, like, vampire? Hell yeah, I'd be a vampire. Give me those supernatural powers and immortality. But just like a normal person, normal, healthy, prime of your life person who's going to live and live and live and live and live. I mean, yeah, why not give it a try? What's it going to hurt? I don't know. Since the question was off the top of my head, the answer is basically off the top of my head. I haven't thought about all the ramifications and everything. But what about you? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is at Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. On Blue Sky, where I almost never post, I'm at EL Smith. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.